I neither condone nor abide by this fucking recording session happening in my kitchen.
Psychedelic Space Beef Band. God damn it.
She's hungry for Mongolia barbecue and dick.
Basically, what's going to happen is every week we're going to offer to suck Mark.
Steven, do you realize how bad of an idea this was? This is an idiotic. So it's another episode. Yeah, exactly. How Backstreet Boys. It's like, what are you doing? Do you know what you're doing?
Shit, we got to be over here.
Like, as a friend, come on, guys. An incredibly poor decision and literally betrays everything that the beef session is about.
Minty.
Minty. Minty as hell.
All right, welcome everybody to the Lost Beat 6 show number 25. We're actually doing this in Culver City, California. We're gonna change it up a little bit. We got today. I'm Punished Steve, as everybody knows, and we got the DRE. What's up, Eric?
Hey, how's it going?
We got Ryan.
Hi.
And we got Bobby, who is our a veteran from the Disaster Piece show.
Yeah, the second VIP guest.
Yes.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Awesome. And we are here in Culver City because we have a very special guest, Ryan. Ryan, do you want to introduce our guest?
Ryan. Hi, my name's Ryan. Our guest, our guest today is Ryan. Other Ryan Elder. Ryan Elder. Hi, nice to meet you.
Hey guys.
This is our first time meeting.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
This
is great.
Fun.
Of course, yeah.
Thanks for inviting us into your home.
Thank you for making my home smell like delicious beef.
Oh,
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Hey,
Yes.
he's in. He's already in, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Ryan, you work on a couple different things. You want to give us a little
I
rundown?
do, yeah. So the main thing people have probably heard of is Rick and Morty. I'm the composer on Rick and Morty.
Never heard of it.
No? Okay, well,
Yeah.
I guess we're done here. No.
Right.
God damn it, Ryan.
I also do music for Harmonquest, which is kind of animated live improv D&D show on VRV, a streaming network. And I, oh my gosh, what else? I just finished a project with YouTube Red called Good Game that stars the Game Grumps. Mm-hmm. And it was written by a couple of Rick and Morty writers and produced by Dan Harmon. And I'm working on something that is going to be on Netflix early next year that unfortunately I can't get into too much about, but that's what's taking up most of my time these days. And as soon as it's announced, I'll let you guys know. But
Something to look forward to.
yeah,
Awesome.
Very cool. All right, well, let's get right into it. Like as you kind of went over, you've done quite a few projects. A lot of those projects have been sort of, I don't know about production-wise, but as far as release-wise, a lot of them come out simultaneously or kind of overlapping. So were they being produced simultaneously as well? There had to be some kind of overlap.
So this summer, from like early July until mid-August, I was working on 4 different shows at once,
God
which was quite fun. I'm not gonna be able to do that alone, so I had people helping me. My wife works with me. She's amazing. She does all of my books, all of my paperwork, all the stuff that I'm terrible at, so I get to mostly just write music or, work with people who write music. So we're able to get through it. Everything is kind of coming out or has come out in the last couple months, and it's pretty cool.
So you can take it easy for a little bit now? Or is it just right back into something else?
I mean, I'll take it a little easy.
Easier.
As a freelancer.
Just two projects for now.
As a freelancer, you get paranoid. As soon as you're not working, you're like, I got to work on something else.
Okay.
That's how this podcast came about.
Yeah.
When I'm not working.
Yeah. No, I hear you. For sure.
Yeah, when we all weren't busy, we were just like cook food and just like email
we
people.
just, like,
Take shots of vodka.
When I'm not working, we were beefing it. And I was like, why don't I just
combine these two great things?
Yeah.
I should monetize hanging out with my friends.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that later.
We're going to put a numerical value on everyone that we know.
That precisely. I mean, yeah, that's what we do here in the good old US of A. Ryan, I have a question regarding sort of working, because you mentioned the things you're working on, they're kind of all over the spectrum in terms of the medium. You know, you've got internet streaming shows, you've got TV shows, and kind of they're all on different platforms. Yeah, I was kind of wondering, is there, as far as both on the business side and the creative side, are there any differences between working on online original content and between actual traditional television?
Not really, to be honest. It's more about, you know, the specific, in terms of what differences there might be, it just depends on who is kind of higher up the chain and how involved they want to be. So, for example, on Rick and Morty, the only notes that I generally get are from Dan and Justin, the showrunners and show creators. I don't get a lot of network notes, you know? Whereas, like, for the first season of Harmonquest, I did get a few notes from the people at CISO. So it just depends on how involved they want to be. Otherwise, no. I mean, we mix it the same way. We put it out like we have a schedule that could work if they came out every week, or in the case of Harmonquest season 1, they all came out at once. Yeah. So to me, it feels the same no matter what they're on. So, and Good Game was the same way. I think we mixed an episode at once a week for 6 weeks, which is what you would do if it was a network TV show as well.
Okay, interesting. So that's actually more similar than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be.
I think there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. They're gonna everyone that they hire to do production on a streaming show is going to be familiar with the production schedule of a television show, so they're just going to do it the same way because it works. You know,
why fuck it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, if ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess.
Yeah, but I think some of the drawbacks for that is that you get things like Game of Thrones episodes leaking like 2 months in advance and stuff.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
They finish them ahead of time. Or, you know, like I'm wondering, like for some of these huge streaming shows like Stranger Things or whatever, how they're going to keep it under wraps, because they're going to release them all at once, but there's no way they're not mixing them all at once. They're not doing like a epic 5-day mixing session. They're gonna do like a staggered schedule. So you gotta have tight security, man, for sure.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, you kind of brought up going back and forth mainly with the showrunners, and that goes into a question that we kind of had about, well, you know, man, I don't know. It wasn't really specific. It was just kind of what's that like? What is when a composer enters a position of, okay, I'm writing music for this show, what can one expect in feedback, in, you know, and what they want from the show? I mean, I imagine it's all kind of different stuff.
Yeah, honestly, it depends on who you're working with. You know, I've had shows where there's pages and pages of notes on my first pass, and those, you know, it takes a significant amount of time to back and forth and working with the showrunner to nail down the sound, to nail down the vibe. For things like Rick and Morty, for some reason, and Harmonquest, Dan Harmon and I, for some reason, are just like very simpatico, and he almost never has notes, and when he does, they're usually, this scene doesn't need music, pull it out. And that's the easiest note of all time. Right?
Yeah, I think I could do that.
So, we were looking for juicy mood swing scenarios.
Yeah,
exactly. We were coming for the dirt. That's what we were doing.
Now, you know, it's funny because, to touch on that, Dan does have a reputation, obviously, in the industry as being someone who's hard to work with. But for me, honestly, I couldn't ask for a better person to work for. He's amazing. His notes, when he does have them, are always like perfect. They're always, yes, that makes complete sense. And he explains them in a way that's just like very easy to address. And he's never been hard for me to work with. So I don't know where the reputation comes from my point of view.
It sounds like, based on the documentary, that it was more like a thing where
Ryan also did the music for.
That's true, actually.
Yeah, you're talking about Harmontown,
Harmontown,
right?
the movie, yeah. That it seemed like it was more about the brass and NBC having, or it seems like part of that, like when, you know, it's more about the showrunner's autonomy.
Yeah,
and
maybe, yeah.
That's what it feels like.
I mean, I will say that Adult Swim gives him a lot of freedom to kind of just put out the best show he can.
Well, they better with the ratings, you know.
Especially, and I can't see a
paid
network
off for him. Absolutely.
I can't see a network giving him that same freedom because they have too many.
Yeah, I mean,
too many.
You know, the cynical way to put that is there's a lot of people there that need to justify their jobs, so they're gonna try to weigh in, right? But the other thing is, you know, they get paid to care, and they care. They want to, like, They want to make sure that they're putting out the best product they can. And that isn't always exactly what the showrunner thinks is the right thing to do. I've been very lucky to have worked on a lot of projects where there weren't a lot of people up in the network meddling with what we were trying to put out. So
That sounds good.
Right. Well, I mean, this is all speculation. Dan, just come on the show and explain to us yourself. You know, you're out. You're clearly listening. I mean, you would obviously support your people you work with. So yeah, come on down.
Ryan, how does it feel to be a vehicle for Dan Harmon?
yeah, I'm used to it.
Okay.
No, this is the first time that's ever happened to me. So no, I'm just kidding.
So I mean, there's that actually kind of that leads me to another point of working. You've clearly built a long-term relationship with Dan, and you've sort of been cultivating, you know, with Justin, the Rick and Morty relationship over several years. What are the pros and cons of working with, you know, building a really solid relationship with a smaller circle versus working on a bunch of really diverse projects? Do you think there's pros and cons to each, or one's better, one's worse?
I think the first one is just a billion times easier. It's just, and this goes to my sort of my position on how to, like, because I get a lot of people who write me and are say, like, how do you get into this business? You know, how do you get to work on cool shows? And honestly, it's like 90% luck. Obviously, I'm in the right place at the right time. I meet Dan and Justin in 2005 at a local LA film festival called Channel 101, if you guys have heard of
Their
it.
thing, yeah.
And I was at a good position in my career where I could dedicate time at night to working on stuff for them for free for many years, you know. And also, I would hang out with them. We would party, you know. We would play games. I'd go to Justin's house and we'd play board games and stuff. So I think like a big part of it is just the more you can get out there and play the social game and meet people and become friends with people that you believe in their creativity and their sort of their like creative essence, then, you know, the more likely they are to call you when they need help. So, and I don't mean this in like an exploitive, like, make friends with people so they'll give you work kind of a way.
Yeah.
Make friends with people that you like and want to be friends with, and if they also happen to be in the business, then you can benefit from that down the road. It's much, much harder to like just cold call people or email people you've never talked to before. Like I was telling you guys before we started, I've never ever gotten a gig that wasn't through some personal connection. And you know, even the stuff that I've had to demo for and compete for, because I got my foot in the door because I knew someone on the writing staff, or I knew, you know, someone involved with the project. So, and they're friends of mine, and they would speak up in my behalf. So, you know, that I think that's like the most important thing you can do as someone who wants to get into a business like this. It's who you know.
Yeah, so stop bitching to Ryan about how hard it is to get in the industry, and then go and meet some people, man.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
start drinking with people that are good, you know?
it's easier said than done, right? Like, you know, easier said than done. Like,
Yeah, but, well, according to Radiohead, meeting people is easy.
All right.
and you know, obviously, I want to have the most diverse clientele I can get, right? So that involves meeting as many people as I can. It's one of the reasons why I come back to LA regularly. As you guys know, the listener probably doesn't know yet because we haven't talked about it, but I live part-time in Minnesota and part-time in LA. The sole reason I come back to LA is so that I can make those personal connections and keep them as solid as possible over time. And yeah, like, you know, go to things like Channel 101, go to things like, you know, film festivals. There's a lot of places you can go and meet people that are working in the business. Conventions like every weekend in LA. If you live in one of the two big cities that are making media, there's always something to do, always people to meet. And finding someone who's really good and sticking with them through everything is great. Problem is, you know, you can't always trust that they're going to be loyal to you, and you can't always trust that they're going to be still making stuff, you know? I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon, but Dan Harmon could decide to retire. And then if he's my only client, you know,
you're fucked.
I'm screwed. So, yeah, you definitely want to diversify as much as you can, but you kind of got to start with
At least have something solid.
Yeah, meeting people and knowing people personally.
Right on. I mean, yeah, that there's obviously pros and cons to both, but I kind of wanted to get your take on it.
Sure.
Have you kind of spell it out for us as someone who's been there. So this kind of, take it on. I don't know, Steve. Let's let's splice that shit. I just went.
Oh, I'm keeping that one there.
All right, keep that shit.
Yeah.
Keep every trip. I don't give a shit. Yeah. So what I kind of wanted is they have. I don't know if they're just doing this for the video or whatever, but there was like a featurette on you earlier in the year, and they have like a shot of Dan giving a bunch of wacky requests to you. Yeah. How real is that, and how often do they come through?
Well, they usually aren't directly from Dan. They're usually in the script, and then I get sent the script. Or in the case of often, like for one of them was, if you guys remember in season 1, there was this character Devin puts on African Dream Pop, which was something that Dan had written into the script and is not a genre.
Yeah.
And for that one, I just was like, I remember getting the animatic and going, he says, this is African Dream Pop. And he like starts the tape player or whatever. Tape player. How old am I? CD player? Even older. His MP3 player. Anyways. And I was like, okay, what the hell is African Dream Pop? So in that case, I emailed Dan and I was like, do you have anything that you don't want African Dream Pop to be? Because the name sort of implies kind of what it should be. And he was like, no, I think, if you just do something like African Dream Pop, then you'll be fine. Right? So, in that case, I took some like cool like African percussion elements, mixed it with some cool synthy, dreamy sounds, and I found like this like sample of this like African singer that I like pitched around and moved around, and yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, but yeah, usually it's like in the script or in the animatic first, and then I'll call Dan and ask him what he meant by that. So I was dramatized for the purpose of that video. But.
Sure, I'd imagine so. That's where I kind of wanted to get your take on it, but yeah. So you heard it here first, folks. African Dream Pop. Yeah. Get on it before the craze.
There's a subreddit for it. There's a subreddit for it on Reddit, and I'm one of the moderators.
Rick and Morty fans. Yep.
r/African Dream Pop. Get on it, folks.
I think the last post was 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, now it's going to be next week because we're going to make an African Dream Pop song and we're going to send it to you and you're going to give us some critiques.
That'll be on the next album, Beefing Around the World, African Dream Pop.
Holy shit.
It's going to be our version of Sonic Highways. So we have a kind of a modular approach to this thing, and we all go around and have our different questions. But my last kind of thing that I want to touch on for my questions is this is a more specific one because it's kind of a silly thing, but for human music. Well, you remember just so the context of what I'm saying. For human music, how much effort went into that?
It's a good question.
This 2-note thing.
I actually called Justin and I was like, okay, what the hell do you want human music to sound like? 'Cause it's got to be something, right? And he had a really clear idea. He was like, he basically sung over the phone what you hear on the show. He was like,
okay,
boop, 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 boop. And I was like, all right, dude, hold on, record, do that again. And then I just found like the simplest, cheesiest synth sound I could find that was like the least unique in any way. And I just did exactly what he hummed over the phone to me. And that's what's on the show.
So sitting down at the computer, how many minutes went into this? How much man hours went into this?
10 minutes, not long.
Have you heard the 10-hour Vaporwave remix?
Not the entire thing, I will admit, but I did, I listened to the first 7 hours of it, I think.
Okay, just wanted to make sure
Does
you got
it
that
get different after that? I'm kidding.
It's like Final Fantasy. It gets good at around 90 hours.
I knew I should have stuck with it.
Where do we go? You have your own podcast.
I do, yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, first, should we just play a game and see if anyone can guess besides you?
I know what it is.
If anyone can guess what it's about, there's no way you will be able to guess.
Okay.
It's not African Dream Pop.
I will say it's not music related at all.
Not music related.
The Minnesota Milk Run.
Hey, I should do podcasts.
Is it how to purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka?
Okay, so 2 Minnesota jokes.
Yeah,
Is it related to anime?
it is not.
All right,
I'll give you
I'm
guys
out.
a hint. I'll give you guys a hint. It's related to a television show on CBS
Young Sheldon?
that has been going on.
NCIS?
It's been going on for 35 seasons.
shit.
The Young and the Restless?
I wish.
These are great.
General Hospital. I'm just going to run down all the soap operas.
It's about Survivor, if you guys know that show.
It's been
The
going on
reality
for
show.
35 years?
35 years?
Well,
They have
no,
seasons.
17 years. They
Okay.
do 2 seasons a year. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
Yeah.
like, holy shit.
That blew my mind.
I know. Even
you
when
said
you say
35
17 years,
Oh,
it's
God.
still pretty mind-blowing.
17 is,
You said
also.
seasons, right? I didn't.
Yeah,
misheard-
35
okay.
seasons.
Okay,
They
yeah,
started
yeah.
for season
Okay.
35.
My brain just translated into years automatically.
Because we all remember the beginning of Survivor, and we were all little kids, so that made us think, like, wait, are we in our 30s? Like,
I had an
guys-
existential
so-
crisis there.
So our guests react the same way because it's me and my friend Scott Chernoff, who's a writer on BoJack Horseman.
Oh, shit. Nice.
He's a funny, super
Nice.
funny guy. We're both super fans of Survivor. We've seen every season, know every winner and what order and by heart. And we always have a guest on who has never seen the show and is funny in some way. Usually, someone from, some sort of showbiz luminary, right? No. And we
Les
make
Moonves?
them watch an episode. What'd you say?
Les Moonves?
No, I wish. No. He's seen the show, I think. Unfortunately, we try to get
You'd
people
hope
who've
the
never
guy
seen it.
running CBS would.
I would hope he's quality
But
control.
it's hard
guy.
to say with CBS shows.
Yeah. And so we'll have a guest on who's never seen it, and we make them watch the most recent episode, and then we talk about it with them. And they're always like, "Wait, what season are they on?" Every
30,
time.
what?
Every time it's always that. And I remember the naked gay guy from season 1. That's the other thing that almost everyone says.
Okay, so how many times have they done the hero and villain? Because they always, at this point, feels like they're rehashing old.
Yeah, they are.
Old,
So they've done heroes,
people.
villains once technically.
Okay.
But this season does have a heroes tribe.
Okay.
Not in the sense that heroes villains had it. I don't know. I don't know how inside baseball we want to get on Survivor.
It gets to a point where they're getting all the runners up.
Yeah,
You know,
they're
like,
good.
they're gonna come
They
back
had
and
a
go for
season
it,
that
you
was
know?
all people who played only once and didn't win.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Are you worried they're running out of like themes?
well,
or
when I
islands
tell
to
you,
be stuck on?
they moved to just doing Fiji now
Okay.
because it's cheaper.
Okay.
But when I tell you the theme for this season, you will assume they've run out of ideas. It's
Let's
called
hear it.
Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers.
Triple H.
Yes, that's right.
Get Triple H hosting the show.
Exactly. It's and the thing is they get away from that theme
I
about
think that's
week
why I asked
4.
that. Yeah,
But
that makes more sense now.
yeah. So
All right, then.
What's the draw for Survivor for you? Because one of those, it's a funny show. I think I talked to my parents because they watch CBS because like the first channel they go to.
yeah.
Because it's channel 2 in LA and channel 2 in New York, which explains why it's the most watched network because it's the first one.
Oh, there you go.
But every time they have their like shows they like Blue Bloods, they like on Friday Hawaii Five-0, the NCIS shows, all those shows. The one show that's like Wednesday night they kind of skip over is The Amazing Race and Survivor. They're not really fans of the
Yeah, they
competitive
don't like the reality
shows.
stuff.
And what's the draw for you?
I'm a gamer. I've been like a strategy gamer my whole life. Like I once played on the Magic the Gathering professional tour.
Oh, shit.
So
Oh, damn.
I'm way into gaming and strategy gaming, and I
Damn.
think Survivor is like the ultimate in strategy social gaming.
Okay.
It's so fascinating to me
Yeah.
to watch people strategize and play this game that is like so elegant in the way that it's run. You vote people out until you can't vote anyone out anymore, and then the people you voted out decide which of the remaining people should win. And it's as simple as it gets, but it's so fascinating every season for me. Yeah, it's fun. You know, it's a soap opera basically.
Yeah.
So is Game of Thrones though.
That's very true.
Oh yeah.
You know, you're always gonna find new ways to like screw each other over. Like
And screw each other.
and screw each other.
Soap operas with better production value.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of TV is just becoming that, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
soap operas were like the only serialized TV that you could find for a long time, and now almost everything is serialized.
Oh, yeah.
It's
People
just,
desperately want Rick and Morty to be serialized, and Dan and Justin are like, no.
Well,
It'll never happen.
Nah, man.
But you know, to a degree, they keep going back to like scenes and shows where they with a multiverse, it's hard to serialize things.
Yeah.
And it's almost a way out of writing out of serialization because things different,
Yeah, and they
there's
have
a version of
things-
everything that's happened.
They'll bring back things
Right.
and touch on things that have happened, but I mean, I don't know. Some of you guys haven't watched the finale of season 3, so I don't want to like spoil it for you.
I actually haven't seen any of season 3 yet. I was
okay.
waiting,
Well,
and
then
now I'm going to watch
we
it
don't
all.
have to do spoilers then.
I haven't seen the last episode.
I will just say this: that like there is a strong online contingent that desperately wants it to be only about like Tammy and Bird Person and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And just to keep going with that story. And Dan and Justin are like, they're just going to write whatever they want and whatever they think
that's
is
what the
good.
show should be, I think.
And if it goes back to them because it makes sense to go back to them, then they will.
They should get Hideo Kojima as a writer.
Oh, guest write an episode.
get the postmodern take on Rick and Morty,
Oh
which
my God.
already has some of those themes, but
I always wanted
Morty's
them
in
to
Afghanistan.
which is a jungle now.
You know how the Game of Thrones guys like guest wrote It's Always Sunny episode, I think.
Oh
Man, yeah, I heard about that.
And I always wonder like what would it be like if there was like a guest Rick and Morty writer that came in and wrote an episode? And I think Dan is just he's so involved with every script. Like basically every line, like episodes are broken as a group. This is one thing that fans on the internet don't understand in this whole, we can get into this whole backlash against the women writers this season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I heard
so
about that.
despicable. But what these people who like blame the women writers for ruining the show and writing the quote unquote worst episodes don't understand is that those women, like, yes, they are the name that wrote the episode, but like from the beginning, it's a group effort.
Oh yeah.
Then that person, the writer who's assigned to that episode, goes away and they write their first draft, and then Dan rewrites the shit out of every episode. Like most of the people who write an episode on Rick and Morty, they just get their name on it, and Dan, like a lot of the dialogue is just Dan. So he's so involved with the scripts that and that's one of the reasons why the season 3 took so long, is because Dan's a total perfectionist and Justin's a total perfectionist,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of like, we need to redo this until it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not aware of the whole. Are people red pilling?
Oh yeah, it's gross.
This whole thing?
Actually,
It's
I
like quite awful.
actually didn't hear about that until halfway through the season from a
Yeah.
friend, and I was like, I didn't even know about that. I was like, I didn't even notice.
No, I mean,
I'm kind of like I'm usually aware of how TV shows are written is basically how you explained it, and basically the showrunner usually has final edit, final cut. So I'm never usually like, if someone writes an episode, I know that they just pretty much wrote that show, draft wise.
yeah,
They bring it back to the writers' room. So like, it's always a team effort. In that
yeah,
way.
totally.
So I'm just trying to figure like,
And not to mention like all of the other women that have been working on the show in other capacities for the whole run, the
Yeah.
animators, there's so many women working on the show. There just wasn't women writers until this season.
okay.
And I think some people were just looking for it to be quote unquote worse in their eyes because now there were women working in the writer's room. It's such a clusterfuck and it's so gross. Like these guys are just total scum. I want to be like unequivocally against these
Right on.
trash.
Knobs,
So.
as Dan put it.
Yeah, so
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
there wasn't even like a contingency to have. There weren't like people calling out that you should have women writers on the show.
There was sort of a controversy about that, but hiring women writers was not to address that controversy at all. They got a bunch of scripts. They didn't look at the names. They read through the spec scripts and they decided which writers wrote the best spec scripts.
That's how it should be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, I actually think that if they had looked at it and seen that it was women, there's nothing wrong with them going, okay, yeah, this one is funny and it was written by a woman. This one is funny and it was written by a man. I'm going to go with the woman, because you need different perspectives. And just because you have to include the added value that a woman brings to the table.
Mm-hmm.
You want to hire the most valuable person for a position, right?
Right.
But
For
you
sure.
have to take into account that women bring value to the table that men don't. And I think it's absolutely okay to go, yeah, let's hire some women.
Yeah, I see no problem with that. I don't
But I
know
know-
why they were freaking out.
Yeah, I mean, it's so infuriating, and I had to like stop reading the internet because of it. But
just because nerds are the worst.
Yeah, they really are the worst.
Yeah.
I mean,
I should say we. I'm a nerd.
Fucking nerds.
I completely swim in the ocean of gamer culture. So
Yeah.
I'm completely aware of just like the awful people who would like send death threats to Jason Schreier of Kotaku because he reported that The Last Guardian was getting delayed. It's like, how dare you report it? It's your fault that it's delayed.
It's insane. I mean, you know what it boils down to really is ethics and gaming journalism. Right?
Gamergate.
This is like the modern day version of getting mad at the fucking like waiter for something that like the food he brought out. It's like, dude.
Yeah.
like I don't know what you're trying to do here.
Yeah, it's insane to shoot the messenger like that. I mean, yeah.
I didn't know this was a story. That's how much I don't get on the internet about this sort of thing.
Good. I mean,
that's the part to avoid.
It sounds like you're a happy person.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm having an insider keep me up to scoop on this stuff.
Oh man, I mean, obviously, I'd rather not be talking about it. I'd rather it didn't exist.
We can move
to talk
on.
About it. No.
We're good.
Look, I'm happy for the opportunity to like show where I stand on it because I'm pretty opinionated on it, and I think it's, it's important. So
Ryan Elder PR Tour 2017. Let's do this.
Yeah.
No, but there are also
Does seem like a trend that's worsening. So you know.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's unfortunately it is getting a lot more polarized, and I don't know if this particular discussion did, but if the overall discussion, I don't know if we got any more constructive or not. I haven't seen anything to kind of confirm or deny that, but.
Yeah, I think those trolls went back under their bridge a little bit.
Don't feed the trolls.
Yeah, but overall, the response to season 3 has been just insanely positive, and the show just keeps growing. It's incredible. Like I don't know how I got so lucky. I like talk to other composers, and they're just like, man, you're so lucky. Because it's my first show with my name on it. Like, I did commercials for 11 years, and I did some shows where I was like part of a group of people that wrote, like, I wrote the theme song, or I co-wrote the theme song to Wizards of Waverly Place.
I was about to ask
Disney.
you about that.
Yeah. And that was with my old bosses at a place called Emoto Music, where we primarily did commercials, but we also did a couple TV shows.
Okay.
So Rick and Morty is my first show where I'm just the only guy on it, and I get all the composing credit, and it's just like, I mean, I could not have asked for a better situation. I love the show. It's just a great show.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I get those animatics, and I'm like, man, I'm so excited to turn them on and watch, like, and this is like 6 months before they air. So
That is awesome.
Yeah. And then, I get to work with people that I think are just the coolest people in the world. Dan and Justin are incredible. The whole staff there is just awesome. And the people at Adult Swim are awesome. So I just feel so lucky, and it's opened up a lot of doors. So I don't know. It's all luck, guys.
Yeah.
Disregard all that shit about networking. It's just luck, man.
Just meet Dan and Justin.
You can throw a rock down Sunset Boulevard and hit 10 composers. So there's a lot of competition.
Definitely.
Well, it sounds like it alludes to the especially the way you guys met. You guys became friends and then started working together, which is kind of what Beefin' It is all about to us.
Yeah.
Going and playing like D&D and drinking at some dude's house. That's we do that a lot at our house.
It's not far off, and seems to be the right trajectory to go on.
I mean, it's definitely a trajectory for sure.
True.
There's people who, the sort of traditional composer trajectory is you usually are an assistant for another composer.
Right.
And you do a lot of grunt work, but you also maybe get to write some music here and there.
Right.
As they get more comfortable with you as someone who can take over their workload, you start working on the show more. Eventually, after a number of seasons, they give you credit. And then maybe you take over the show completely. Maybe they give the next show that they don't have time to do to you to handle or whatever. And that's sort of how you do your career. Mine was different, and I worked on commercials for a long time. And I think one of the advantages of working in commercials is that every day you're doing a different style of music. And you're doing, one day you're doing African dream pop, and the next day, you're
doing human music.
You're doing orchestral or whatever, yeah. So I think like building up my chops in that area was really, really helpful for when I did get to start working on TV shows, because I can kind of do just about anything. You know, certain things I need to hire good players for, but I think I can fake just about any genre at the very least. So yeah, you know, grinding away, doing commercials, and I had a good situation there. So
Awesome. Eric, do you have a question?
I mean, most of my questions were not included on this document. I don't really have much.
I got the important ones.
There's like three that were left.
Censored, man.
Yeah,
Don't stand for it.
This is bullshit. I should have been writing them down myself, but I was too busy taking shots. And so I got a couple here. Favorite cut of beef.
Favorite cut of beef.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for a ribeye steak.
Ribeye steak.
That's the right answer, by the way.
Excellent. The fattier, the better. Like this
you and Steve are getting
tri-tip
along
you brought
here
tonight was fantastic.
Thank you,
man. Perfect marbling. It was amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, Steve's barbecue is no joke. Yeah, unfortunately, it's a little we weren't able to do the brisket, but that's another solid cut Steve does.
I believe
That's
I like
like
tri-tip better than brisket, so
Really?
I would probably order tri-tip anyways, even if the brisket was on the menu.
Interesting.
I'm a tri-tip guy myself.
The budget appreciates that decision.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so that's well, ribeye, yeah,
But that's a good
Yeah,
choice.
that's-
I approve.
excellent.
Back about a month or two ago, there was that guest animator bit with for Rick and Morty where Morty actually drops like the acid or whatever, and then it goes into that long sequence. I don't know if you saw, but it's like 30 different animation styles, all like 10 seconds pieced together.
I did see that. It's incredible.
Yeah. So one of our favorite musicians, comedians, whatever, is this guy Mark M, who his own company is called Sick Animation.
Yeah.
And I originally thought that you did the music for the background of that,
Yeah,
and I was going to ask, did you work with Mark? Because you know he's an elusive guy. There's no pictures of him on the internet. You know, I he used to work for this ADHD, which was that like kind of prop rival for Adult Swim for a couple years, and that like fell apart. So I was going to ask if you knew Mark.
He started doing bumps for Adult Swim too.
That's right. Yeah, they moved to Adult Swim, but
well, I mean, if you worked on that, that's an Adult Swim project.
Yeah, exactly. He's doing that now.
No, I think that's a licensed track. I think I forget the artist, but I think it's like it's off a record.
Yeah, we looked it up the other night. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah. So
that thing was so cool. I would love to work on that, but they use a licensed tracks.
Actually, kind of speaking of, sorry, Eric, I'm going to cut in for a second.
Yeah.
Speaking of other people who like work on music for the show and stuff, like Chaos contributed a couple songs.
Oh yeah, those girls are amazing.
Yeah.
Justin's been a fan of theirs since they were a band called Smoosh. Which
Smoosh.
they were like 9-year-old girls playing in a rock
my God.
band. Yeah, they're incredible.
Damn, some baby
They've been
metal
playing
shit.
in a rock band and recording like their whole lives practically. And he's been a fan of them. He had that one song from season 2 that they used.
Do you feel it?
Yeah, Do You Feel It? He loved that song, and he was like, I want to get this song in there. And then he kind of met them, and because they played our rap party for season 2.
Oh, cool.
And he met them and like became friends with them, and now I become kind of friends with them. And so he's like always looking for opportunities to get them involved because he loves their music. We
Yeah,
actually,
fantastic.
me and Chaos, we collaborated on a song in the season finale of season 3 that I don't want to get too much into the details of because you guys haven't seen it.
Yeah, I got to see that shit.
It's sort
Lagging.
of like it's like an 80s ballad, like a Bonnie Tyler kind of a 80s
fuck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
which
I know what
was
you're talking
was
about.
super
Yeah.
fun to do. And those girls are geniuses, man. They're incredible to work with, really, really smart, and they can write a hook like I've never heard.
Oh, yeah.
man. They're so good.
I was actually that's what I was gonna ask, but I hadn't seen the last episode yet. Yeah, because the first one was a license. Second one was a collaboration between them and Justin, and then I was
Yeah.
actually gonna ask if you were gonna do anything with them, and I guess
Yeah.
that's answered.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
exactly, yeah. And I look for any opportunity to work with them. They're just very, very professional and good, and they're like 24 years old. They're like so young and.
It's awesome.
And they didn't even when I was like I had to like explain to them how to make an 80s song. It's like they were born in the like 90s, the late 90s or something. You know, like
It's like, have you heard of gated reverb?
yeah, and I was like, oh, the reason that everything is so like crispy And so, like, high end is because everyone did coke back then, and coke, you can't hear any high end when you do coke, so everyone's jacking up the high end to make up for it.
Good tip, good mixing
Yeah,
tip.
exactly.
Very cool.
Never thought of that being an actual.
Oh yeah, man! Mixing boards back then had a mirror built into them. Coke was like the studio drug.
You take the fader out of the clip, and it becomes your own.
Yeah, there you go.
Coke credit card.
You chop it up with the fader. Yeah.
Credit card, please. Razor, Steve.
That's right. Credit cards were a thing in the 80s, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. I was
Unfortunately, yes. But yeah, so yeah, that's what I was actually curious about. But
Yeah.
now we got that out of the way, Eric.
Minnesota is a very unique place, man. Some amazing creative artists have come from Minnesota for sure.
Yeah, American Movie came out of is that
No,
Minnesota?
that's
Or is that
Milwaukee.
Milwaukky? Sorry,
Milwaukee also
like-
a
just
great
like- just
town.
like Dan
Harmon's from
Harmon.
Milwaukee.
Yes, he is Midwestern.
We're
Yeah.
big. I'm a huge Red Letter Media fan, so I'm all seeing what they're doing in Milwaukee.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I want to
Those
get them
are-
on the show.
Are those the guys that make Every Frame a Picture?
No, they came to internet fame through the 70-minute Phantom Menace review.
Okay.
He had that guy with it was like a
Mr. Plinkett.
Mr. Plinkett, who was like a guy with a very monotone voice, and then he'd like give you actual film critique and writing critique because
Okay.
they went to film to film school
okay,
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
in Chicago, and
They have a YouTube channel, right? It's
Yeah,
a
they
pretty
do.
big one.
yeah,
okay.
it's got a big following. I like them because they're kind of doing the opposite of they're like the counterpoint to like Screen Junkies, which seem to be very
Yeah.
over the top.
Well, I have a good friend who's on Screen Junkies.
Okay, so they seem to they have a more satirical approach to the way
yeah.
because
They've been recommended to me by several people, and
Yeah.
I've just never had never
it's-
gotten around to watching them.
they're close by in terms of juxtaposition of states,
Yeah.
but that's I don't know how far
Yeah.
St. Paul is from.
There's a couple
Milwaukee.
of guys. Do you guys remember that YouTube show Chad Vader?
Yes,
I do.
Yeah.
That's a 101 thing originally,
Yeah,
right?
it started at Channel 101, and actually, I was gonna say because I was listening to your interview with Disaster Piece, and you guys were talking about like missed opportunities or things that you've turned down or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've only turned down one thing that I wish I hadn't, and it was Chad Vader, which because those guys are amazing. The guys that made it, Aaron and Matt, are super funny guys. They're really cool guys, and they asked me to do it. And I was just like, oh, I'm too busy this month, blah, blah, blah. And then that thing just blew up so big. Like, I always wish I had been.
I am
on
altering the deal.
that. Yeah. But now I'm afraid to say no to anything. I just say yes to everything.
Yeah, just like me and everybody else in this room.
Yeah.
Welcome to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But if you can't remember, it wasn't worth saying.
Do you know if androids dream of electric beef?
That was a Jay question.
But I do want to see the new Blade Runner movie that's
Okay.
Yeah, with Ryan Gosling, right?
it's got like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes or something. It's like
All right.
Has it been released yet?
it comes out this Friday.
Okay.
Oh shit!
Okay.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
By the time you're listening to this, I've always wanted to say that. By the time you're listening to this, it will be out already.
You have a podcast? You never said that?
No, because I put my podcast out literally the same day we record it.
Ah.
Yeah. Well, I don't edit it. My co-host is like of the Howard Stern camp of like everything is worth keeping in.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
one point where you're doing like a cast preview for a season, and he got a phone call from one of those Microsoft scammers that like that say you have a virus and they want access to your computer, and then they sign you up for stuff. And he doesn't have a PC. He's a Mac user, so he's like stringing the guy along. He puts him on speakerphone, and it's like this half-hour prank phone call. Where they called him on our podcast about Survivor, and I just was like, "There's no way I'm cutting this. It's too good."
Yeah. No,
So we get a lot of like cool, funny stuff that happens just because we don't cut anything. I'll cut if there's like a technical difficulty, and that's it.
Sure. But yeah, those prank calls are always pretty gold for podcasts.
Yeah.
Did you see Justin on H3 podcast? He prank called Joel Osteen's
Yeah,
mega
I
church
did see that. Yeah.
after the Houston
Yeah.
thing, the hurricane.
Yeah, I got to meet Ethan at the rap party for season
that's
for
cool.
season 3, and I was like so starstruck, man.
Oh yeah.
I don't usually
would
get
be too.
starstruck, but for him, I was just like, "Oh, dude, I love your show. I love your show. I do music for Rick and Morty." He's like, "Oh, thanks for being a fan, man." I was just like, yeah. And, I don't know what else to say.
You are my biggest fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was he seems like an interesting dude. We should get him on
He
the
was
podcast.
nice. He was
He's
super
probably
nice.
Yeah, no, I mean
That's good. That's the ultimate name drop.
Ethan Klein.
Nice, yeah, Ethan Klein, nice guy.
What I like, I'll just go on. I'll harp on him for a minute. Just the thing is, the thing I like is he gets people. He's like publicly shit on with 4 million views on his podcast, and they'll talk about it. It's just like that's great. Just get his adversaries on his podcast.
Oh, Ethan does that?
Yeah, like because he's got that channel where he just talks about YouTube scammers and fake pranksters and stuff, and he's like, let's get on my podcast and live stream it and not cut anything out except for like the YouTube version. But yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, he's a talented guy for sure.
But yeah, that's awesome. So, is anybody else got any?
Well, do we want to go with the normal questions?
Do you want to run through the series of usual questions?
Yeah, do you want to do that?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. So normally we ask our guests, what are 5 things you are reading, listening to, watching, and what was the 4th one? Reading, listening, watching.
I think it's only
playing.
Playing video games.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Playing, okay.
Basically, media you're consuming.
Sure. I do all those things, so I have answers.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I just finished reading Cloud Atlas, and now I'm on like a huge is that his name? David Mitchell. You guys see that movie Cloud Atlas? I heard it was terrible.
That was one with Tom Hanks and like a bunch of different
I
time
heard that was really
periods.
bad, and I never
I
watched
heard it was
it.
bad.
The Wachowski brothers.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Wachowski's.
The book is phenomenal.
Siblings.
Amazing.
Siblings.
One of like the
Are
better
brothers
books I've
siblings
read.
or not?
They're also women now.
Oh, they're both women now.
I think so.
Yeah,
Both
the other
both
ladies
women.
now.
Oh.
Yeah, they're both women.
Okay,
now, yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
I mean, arguably, they were always both women,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Isn't that
there you
the,
go.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
in any
All right,
case.
so
that's a
the
fair point.
Wachowskis.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to be a dick about
Lily
it.
and I forget the other one's
That's how
name.
much I know
Lily
about
and-
them. You know.
Yeah. So I loved Cloud Atlas, so I'm reading more of him. Watching as far as TV shows, I need to start BoJack season 4.
It's pretty
That's
good.
I need to
nice.
see season
It
3
got
still.
real.
Yeah.
That season got real.
I mean, they all get real.
But
It's like
there's
real
one in
out the-
particular that was like,
Yeah.
oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Which one was that?
Don't spoil it.
No.
Sorry.
I'll let you know.
Is it already out?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
been
It's not a
out.
spoiler if it's already out, man.
And then I'm also watching Fargo. I'm in the middle of Fargo season 3.
Okay.
Fargo is my favorite show on TV right
Little
now.
slice of home,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so good.
North Midwest,
Video games.
or games in general.
Games in general.
Tabletop,
oh,
whatever.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I always play Magic the Gathering still.
Yeah,
I
my
will as
roommates
long
are
as I
all
live.
huge into Magic.
Really?
Yeah, if you came by, it would have been fun. You could have played them, but
Yeah.
Do you do the digital ones at all, like Hearthstone? Or
So I do. I have played Hearthstone a lot. I think I got Legend once when it first came out, but it's so much work to get Legend, so I don't
Damn.
try anymore. I played the Elder Scrolls card game when that came out. That's probably my favorite one. I tried Gwent. I didn't like it.
Gwent's weird.
It is weird. I think it's an acquired taste, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love card games of all types. I mean, I have my board games just for LA right there.
Nice.
But
Oh, right on.
yeah, I'll always play Magic as long as I live. That's like I think it's the greatest game ever made.
It's really easy to get into. For like, I never really
It's
played it
really
before,
easy
and
to
then like
spend
I learned
away.
it in like half an hour. You know, like
Yeah, I mean,
not
you can
well,
learn the
but like you
basics,
could. Yeah.
No, that's the genius of it. Like, it's one of those games that you can learn in a half hour, but it can take you 10 years to get good at.
Yeah,
Like,
we
it
a
takes
couple
a
years ago we
lot
did
of work.
a giraffe party. And that's a cool way to
Yeah,
learn how to play.
drafting is my favorite
Yeah.
way to play for
And
sure.
then it was like teams of 2, so like someone
Oh,
was
cool.
paired up with someone that knew how to play. So
Yeah,
it worked
cool.
out.
Start a fantasy football league of all of our podcast guests who play fantasy football.
I try to only be in 2 leagues.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but
you
I
can
would
get
do
out of
it.
I
hand
would do
quick.
it as long as you don't care if I care too much.
Oh no, we need. Typically, we've had people like quit. You know, or not care enough.
Yeah,
so
I love
we welcome people
definitely-
caring way too much.
I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, which is
I'm sorry about Cook.
Dalvin Cook.
Shut up.
Sorry.
I'm thinking of that was like kind of the last straw. I'm like thinking maybe I should stop being a Vikings fan. It's so hard to be
It's-
a fan of that
Because
team.
you like
man.
Diggs is awesome. Thielen's great.
They have great players.
He screwed me.
It's just
Thielen
so
screwed me
frustrating.
over in the league, but not that I was going to win that one anyway. But I felt bad when I feel like I feel almost. I'm not even. I think at least Eric and I are like kind of at this point anybody but the Packers
Oh,
winning that
yeah.
division.
Yeah. I'm tired of seeing the Packers in the playoffs
yeah.
every year.
The only team that I'm more of a fan of than the Minnesota Vikings is who's ever playing the Packers. I hate the
Right
Packers
on.
more than I like the Vikings.
It's like me and the Chicago Cubs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan.
Okay,
So
okay. I
You
was going
won't
to say,
find
like,
many
Cubs were
that hate
so
the Cubs.
hard to root against for so long, but then they
No,
ended doing
last year
well,
was
so-
one of the worst years ever.
Yeah, no, he's
Trump-
got this St.
Trump
Louis
getting elected
thing.
made it better.
Wow, that's a bold
step
statement.
up.
That is
You know,
bad,
like,
yeah.
and that was that bad. The week before, I was miserable, and then Trump getting elected was just like, okay, everybody's fucked. We're all good.
Everyone's on my level now.
Yeah.
Like,
We actually got
I don't want to live in a world where the Cubs win the World Series, man. This is just. Like,
He's like, I'll take it upon myself to end it, so you don't have to live through this, Steve.
So-
Yeah, there's actually we got that from a podcast guest that the guy we invited for next time is and we're just like, yeah, is there anything you want us to stay off of? He's like, world's ending, ask me anything.
For real.
He's like, I don't care, dog.
That's so true.
I almost felt betrayed when they didn't tell you that Sam Bradford was hurt.
Oh, man. Yeah.
They were like,
I mean,
he was looking
He doesn't
fine.
want
The
to talk
game
about the
won.
Vikings, dude. You're like,
it's a
dude, the Vikings,
very
man. He's
painful
like,
subject. Yeah.
Actually, that's a good question. So you're doing this living in two places, kind of
Yeah.
on and off. Do you find that like a healthy? Do you find that kind of healthy to be away from LA at times to be with your
Definitely.
family?
Definitely. When I go back to Minnesota, it's quiet. I can just, be more of a family man. We don't have kids, but we have 2 cats. And,
Nice.
one of the reasons that we live there is to be closer to family. So,
Right.
just hanging out with my nieces or whatever, just doing that stuff is just so much more relaxing there and quiet. And we live kind of in the suburbs now. So,
Do you also find that more creatively? What's the right word? Inspiring.
conducive.
Conducive.
sure. Yeah. It's sort of like I get to recharge my tank. a
Yeah,
little
that
bit,
sounds
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic.
It's definitely, there's definitely some bonuses to it,
Yeah.
And it's kind of like having a place in LA is kind of like a vacation home.
Okay.
Sometimes when it's winter time,
Sure.
can
Sure.
come here
Oh, yeah.
instead,
I
you know?
bet.
Yeah.
So
So you can
that's
do
cool.
Christmas here or back there.
Right,
or,
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Or in February when it gets to be like oppressive. Winter's fun for the first couple months.
Right. Right.
And then not so fun.
Right.
So,
It's like you're begging for March and April. Like, please.
well, yeah. In Minnesota, you're begging for May.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Bobby's lived on. You've probably had the worst cold experience of all of us because you live in Boston.
When I my first semester going to college at Berkeley,
Yeah.
at that time was considered the worst snowstorm on record.
Oh God.
Yeah, so like I
But
think
Boston is in that zone where they get a crap ton of snow, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's warm enough to get a ton of snow.
Mhm.
Minnesota gets too cold to snow, actually.
really
So
it's just
it snows at the beginning of winter and the end.
I've heard the Midwest
cold
is
to snow.
It's kind of weird. But,
It's like a taiga or something up there. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a
Tundra.
meteorologist. That might be impossible or something. I might be speaking
not?
out of turn, but no.
It's probably
we
something
doing
to
here?
do with
Pack
like
up
the
the mics.
pressure and all that. But
Yeah, I've heard the Midwest cold is the worst cold, like North Midwest around the
It's
Great Lakes.
brutal, man. My dad called it the killing cold. He actually wrote a song about it when I was a
Are you
little
gonna play
kid.
it?
Yeah. I don't have it handy, but
By the
maybe
way,
we
I'm
could
sorry.
cue it up behind me right now.
yeah, splice it in.
Yeah, sure. Send it over.
It's very 80s. But I always say that the cold in Minnesota versus like say the cold here, like because it does get kind of cold here when it gets into the 50s or whatever.
Yeah.
right.
Is the cold in Minnesota is like being stabbed to death, and the cold here is like being poisoned, right? The cold here is wet, comes from the inside. You feel it all throughout your body, whereas there it's like all exterior,
Oh,
just,
yeah.
like, burning your skin.
Yeah.
It's
Because
so cold.
you are the warmest thing going on right at that point. Like,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
'cause you have to maintain that 98.
Yeah.
Maintain homeostasis.
Yes.
Yeah, and your like nose hairs freeze up in the winter when you're waiting at the bus stop as a kid.
That's terrible.
Builds character, man. Builds character.
Toughens you up.
So I guess the last part of that, to get back to the what are you, the media stuff
What did I miss?
listening
I missed
to.
one. Listening to. I just started listening to the new Haim record last night. I love their first record. I can't wait to keep listening. I sort of because of my involvement with Rick and Morty, I became friends with this band called Tennis. Do you guys know that band?
I've heard of tennis.
Sort of.
Like the
they're
sport?
so good.
Yeah, like the sport.
Okay.
Yeah, they're so good, and I've sort of become friends with their drummer. and it's a husband and wife are like kind of the main creative forces in it, and they're say it like they love sailing, and they'll go out on the boat for like 6 months and write a whole record, and then come back and record it. Yeah, amazing people.
Sounds awesome.
So I've been getting into their stuff a little more because I just because of my friendship with them. My brother-in-law is he's in this group mashup group called the Hood Internet. Have you guys heard of them?
The Hood Internet. No.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. He's been doing mashups with them for like, well, he is them. Him and his friend are the Hood Internet. They've been doing mashups for like 12 years, but he started a new hip hop project called Air Credits. That's really good. That I've been listening to. I don't know.
All right, yeah.
I feel like I'm saying like I'm only listening to my friends' bands, but
No,
I mean, we do a lot of the same. You know?
That's the thing is I like to. We bring on our friends. We bring on all sorts of people.
Sure.
And I prefer listening to now more than I used to. Like I prefer listening to music my friends are making.
Yeah.
And interested in those releases than more.
I mean, you only have
releases.
so much time, right? Like,
Yeah.
And for me, music is my job. So oftentimes when I'm done working, I don't want to listen to more music.
Yeah.
You know, I'll listen to podcasts.
Right.
So, you know, I could answer you with a bunch of podcasts I listen to. Actually.
Sure,
That would count.
we'll take that.
I mean,
too.
I listen to a ton of Survivor podcasts, but other than that, you know,
Keeping up with the competition.
I love all the Earwolf stuff, like all the Comedy Bang Bang and all the sort of related podcasts to
great.
that. This summer I listened to every episode of Reply All in order from the beginning, which has been amazing. I love that show. If you guys know that show,
Yeah, I've listened to it a couple
What's it
times.
it's about the internet.
damn.
And they do really cool segments, and those guys are really smart, and they cover like cool stories about the beginning of the internet all the way to like things that are happening now, like Pizzagate or whatever. It's a fascinating podcast, one of my favorites, and the hosts are just they're just like, they seem like they're my friends now. You know what I mean? You know, you listen to a podcast enough, they like you feel like they're your
You get
friends.
that vibe.
Yeah.
You know
Absolutely.
their character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
I think you covered
watching.
it all.
Do we do watching?
Watching.
Yeah, Fargo
movies,
season
films.
3.
Oh, yeah,
that's right.
yeah,
That's
we
right.
did.
All right, so I guess we covered.
No hidden gems or anything, but
That's fine.
although I will say this, Search Party, if you guys didn't watch that show, I think it's on FX.
TBS, I think, but the one with
TBS,
with Alia
TBS.
Shawkat.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started that. It was interesting.
Dude, I think it's incredible. It's like one of my favorite shows I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think I was watching like other like way more like over the top shows and stuff like that before I started watching it, and it was like way more subtle and grounded than I expected it to. And I feel like I went into it with a bad
gets away
headspace.
from that. I will say that.
It does?
I just will say, like, for anyone who has seen it, to be a fly on the wall for in the writers' room for season 2 would be an incredible experience, because they write themselves into the biggest hole you could possibly imagine at the end of season 1.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they're going to get out of it. I can't wait. Season 2 comes out, I think, later maybe in November or October, and I am so excited. I cannot wait for it. Alia Shawkat was the guest on Rick and Morty, which is like the podcast about Rick and Morty, on Sunday, and I was at the taping, and I so wanted to just like go up and be like, What happens? Tell me what happened.
I actually had someone working on a show once that came to speak at the college that Steve and I went to, and he spoiled the end of Breaking Bad for us 2 seasons early.
Jesus, really?
Yeah, Thomas Golubic, this music supervisor of Breaking Bad, he came in. He's like, "Yes, you all know like how Heisenberg dies and shit." In the end, we're just like, "Wait, what? It's like what? It's like 2013, man."
Oh, no.
Yeah, and he's just like, "Well, you know what's gonna happen." We're like really leading towards it, and we're just going,
Yeah.
"All right, well."
One of my favorite comedy Bang Bangs, the guest was Bob Odenkirk, and Scott, the host, is like trying to get him to spoil the ending. This is when it was airing, and he like improvises a fake ending, and he's like, Heisenberg's on the beach, and he looks out in the ocean, and he says, "I could get used to this."
Yeah. Well, little did he know, he just had to get the music supervisor on the show.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's actually an Bob Odenkirk. There's an interesting story about Bob Odenkirk from. We were talking about Wolfpack before this.
Yeah.
And Jack Stratton. Jack Stratton wants to do he came out to LA also wanting to do comedy and stuff, which he does in his music and stuff. but he was like, I'm going to send my funny videos to Bob Odenkirk.
Uh-huh.
So he approximated his email. He just guessed his email.
Yeah.
And he sent it to him. He goes, Bob Odenkirk at whatever.com. And he goes, okay, here's a funny video I did. Let me know what you think. And like 2 months later, he gets a response, and he just goes, yeah, it's cool. It's funny. And he's like, all right, I'm going to keep this minimalist exchange going on. He just goes, waits 5 months, and he just goes, thanks.
That's amazing.
And then like a year later, he gets an email back just going, by the way, I'm not actually Bob Odenkirk.
Love it. So. You know, that's like Tim and Eric, you know how they got Tom Goes to the Mayor, their first show.
I remember
that. It was produced
show,
by Bob Odenkirk. And the story is they sent him like a demo reel, but they sent it on like 3/4 inch videotape or something like really hard to watch. And they thought like if it's really hard to watch, he'll be more intrigued to actually try to watch it. And apparently it worked because he watched it, he loved it, and then he wanted to work with them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, gosh.
That's pretty great. Yeah, he's broken a lot of talent in this town. Like he's broken a lot of people out.
Yeah, he's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Definitely a curator of comedy. In this.
That's another show I gotta get caught up on his show. I'm like halfway through season 1. I want to watch.
Better Call Saul.
Better Call Saul. Yeah.
But I also couldn't get over that Michael McKean was like the brother because I kept thinking of David St. Hubbins.
Oh yeah.
So I was just like, oh, he was the patron saint of quality footwear. You know, it's just I read more books
all
than
time great.
I don't read as many books as anybody else. That makes me a more selective person. All those credit scenes, they're I know, Spinal Tap, deep cuts.
You're doing deep cut Spinal Tap jokes right now.
We're all about deep cut Spinal Taps. I can't stand the whole 11 jokes.
Yeah, you're not going to 11. You're not.
We're more about
fuck
this, fuck the napkin.
Keys.
You know?
Bobby, do you want to tell them my deep cut my deep cut Spinal Tap joke?
Well, I don't remember it.
It's
so
too
no.
deep. The one that involves a piano.
Oh, yeah. Every time Ryan goes down and sits on a new piano and tests it out, he plays "Lick My Love Pump."
Yeah, you play the actual song.
Yeah, that's the actual song.
Yeah, I love that.
There it is.
Yeah, Steve, be like, let's do a tape. We'll do like recording keys. Be like, all right, let's do a line test. And all right, Steve just doesn't care anymore. He's dead to it. He'll watch that movie. He'll never enjoy that part of the movie again.
Never order sad keys.
Brings me to a point. Talking about Spinal Tap and stuff, and certain things becoming really ubiquitous cultural jokes. You know, kind of being a really widespread, like a meme, if you will. Mm-hmm. You know, you've kind of had that sort of because you helped with Get Swifty, and that was all over everything on the internet. What's that like? Do you think that kind of? I mean, it's a.
Do you consider yourself a meme master now?
Definitely.
Well, no, it's just do you think that? Do you think that cheapens it, or you think it makes even more adds value to it, or?
Oh man, I guess it. I mean, it adds value. You know, like at this point, I'm just along for the ride, man. Like I have no control over this behemoth of a show that all I can do is just like do my best work, try to be funny when I need to be funny, and stay out of the way when I need to stay out of the way. But yeah, I love that there's. I mean, I enjoy the memes so. Bring them on. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. Sure. It's fun to see, like, people get into the show, for sure.
Absolutely. We're all about self-actualizing into memes here at Lost Beat 6. So
we've had many discussions.
Yeah, so if man can become meme, if we can if we can achieve meme apotheosis, then that's certainly our goal.
How did you enjoy this?
This is great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. You ever want to beef it again? We're big board gamers and stuff too. So
cool. Yeah.
We're into repeat viewings, repeat guests, kind of what people are doing.
Or just if you don't even feel like podcasting, you just want to play board games.
In 2 years when season 4 comes out.
Yeah, there we go.
Son. Yeah. Where's Rick and Morty season 4? It's the day after the 2 days after the finale, guys. Yeah, I want it now. Where is it?
Yeah. Feel free to if you ever want to.
Are Dan and Justin still friends?
Hang out.
Are they mad? Are they fighting each other?
Yeah. I'm the biggest Venture Brothers fan, so I'm totally used to waiting for it.
Yeah, that's what I always see. Like people are like, if you think you have it bad, Rick and Morty fans.
You don't know.
You don't know
until
pain.
You've been a fan of Venture Brothers.
So shall we wrap things up then?
Let's do it. Anyway, thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us. Yeah,
this was really good. This was
cool.
Love to have you on again and more stuff.
I think we could probably make that happen.
And,
sweet. So yeah, that was Ryan Elder, folks, and this is Lost Beat 6. That's Steve. That's Eric. That's DRE. That's Bobby. And I'm some guy who gives a shit.
All right. I guess that's the ending.
Peace out.
Peace out.